Hey everyone, and welcome back. Are
Yeah.
you ready for another deep dive into some incredible science?
I sure am.
Okay, great. Today we're going to be talking about stem cell therapies.
The kind that could maybe change how we treat pretty much everything.
Exactly, from blood disorders to, even possibly long COVID.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And a lot of this stuff is coming from a company called StemCyte.
Oh yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah, they're doing some amazing work. They just got FDA approval for their cord blood stem cell therapy. It's called REGENECYTE.
So this is the stuff that they used to just throw away, right?
Yeah, basically.
Cord blood.
Wow.
Yeah, not anymore.
So what makes this so special?
This is the first time a U.S.-based company has gotten approval like this for a cord blood stem cell therapy.
So this is a really big deal.
Yeah, it is.
Can you kind of give us a little stem cells 101? You know what makes cord blood so important in this field?
Okay, so think about when you were just a single cell, right?
Like full of potential to become anything in the body, like bone, muscle, brain, you name it.
Like a tiny little blob of potential.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
And those are stem cells in their purest form. And cord blood, the blood that's left in the umbilical cord after a baby's born, it's full of these powerful cells
Huh.
just waiting to be put to work.
So StemCyte is taking these cells and making a therapy out of it called REGENECYTE. So what is it and what can it do?
So it's called an allogeneic therapy, which means that the stem cells are coming from a donor, not the patient.
Okay.
So they take these cells, they process them, and then they store them until they find a match.
Okay.
And then they give them to the patient through an infusion. And those cells can actually help to rebuild the patient's blood and immune system.
So it's like hitting the reset button for your blood.
Yeah, basically.
Wow. So how does that actually work for like treating conditions?
So for one, REGENECYTE has been approved to treat a bunch of different blood and immune system disorders.
Uh-huh.
We're talking about patients with like inherited conditions, acquired disorders, or even problems from other treatments.
Hmm.
It can provide what's called hematopoietic and immunologic reconstitution,
Okay.
which basically means giving their blood and immune systems a fresh start.
So they're getting like a brand new system.
Pretty much.
Wow, that's amazing. One thing that really struck me about StemCyte is they have like a massive inventory of cord blood.
They do.
It's one of the largest in the world.
Yeah.
Why is that so important?
That's a really good question. It's important for a couple of big reasons.
Okay.
First, you have to find a match, right?
Right.
And the more diverse your inventory is, the better chance you have of finding that perfect match for the patient, especially if they have a rare tissue type.
That makes sense.
It's also important for research.
Okay.
So with more samples, they can really dive deep into what these cells can do and come up with even more ways to use them.
So they're not just like sitting on this giant collection, they're actually like putting it to work.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are some of the other areas that they're exploring?
This is where it gets really interesting. So StemCyte is running some phase 2 trials right now for using REGENECYTE to treat long COVID syndrome and acute stroke.
Wow, those are two very different things.
They are, but they can both have a huge impact on people's lives.
So why do they think that cord blood stem cells could be the answer for both of those?
It all comes back to those powerful cells.
Okay.
So with long COVID, we're seeing that cord blood stem cells might be able to reduce inflammation.
Okay.
They could repair damaged tissues,
Ah.
and they might even be able to restore lost function.
So like all that debilitating fatigue, brain fog, heart problems, this could be a game changer.
It could. It's like they're giving the body the tools that it needs to heal itself from the inside out.
So what about acute stroke? How could stem cells help with that?
Okay, well, stroke is one of the biggest causes of disability around the world.
Yeah.
And it happens when blood flow to a part of the brain is cut off and it damages those brain cells. Again, REGENECYTE could provide a new way to treat it. It might be able to repair that damage and restore the function that was lost.
So we're talking about two conditions with potentially really bad long-term effects, and cord blood stem cells might be able to offer a real chance at recovery.
It is pretty incredible.
It is. It's amazing to think that something that was once just routinely thrown away could actually be so beneficial.
I know, it's pretty wild.
It makes me think, if cord blood stem cells can potentially treat all these different conditions, what other areas of medicine could benefit from it?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it's what keeps researchers up at night. We're probably just scratching the surface of what's possible with regenerative medicine using these cells.
It's really mind-blowing to think about the possibilities.
It is.
But let's kind of zoom in on one key aspect of all of this. This massive cord blood inventory that StemCyte has. We talked about it a little bit before, but I want to dig in a little deeper. What makes having such a large and diverse collection so important, especially when we're talking about personalized medicine and these targeted therapies?
Yeah, that inventory is a real game changer.
Yeah.
Remember those rare tissue types that we talked about?
Hmm.
Well, imagine trying to find a match for a patient with a very unique genetic profile.
Yeah.
It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, but StemCyte's making that haystack a lot smaller with their huge collection.
Oh, okay.
So the more options that they have, the better chance they have of finding that perfect match for each patient, which will make it more likely that the treatment will be a success.
So it's like a massive library of possibilities,
Exactly.
each one tailored to a specific need.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. And it's not just about finding matches for existing therapies.
Right.
This giant inventory also helps with research and development, right?
It does. Having so many different types of cord blood lets StemCyte really dive into the unique properties of all those different units.
Okay.
They can study how the cells respond to different conditions,
Uh-huh.
identify potential biomarkers for specific diseases, and even develop completely new therapies that are designed just for that patient's needs.
So it's not just about the quantity, but the diversity within that collection is opening up a whole world of possibilities for personalized medicine.
Exactly. And that's where this whole field is heading towards, therapies that are as unique as the people that they're designed to treat. And StemCyte is leading the way with all their groundbreaking work and their massive inventory.
It's amazing to see how this is all evolving.
Yeah, it is.
But let's shift gears for a second and talk about the science behind REGENECYTE itself.
Okay.
So we know it uses hematopoietic stem cells,
Uh-huh.
but for people who aren't really familiar with those, can you explain what they are and how they actually work in the body?
Okay, so think of hematopoietic stem cells as the master builders of your blood and immune system.
Okay.
They can change or transform into any of the blood cells that your body needs. Red blood cells to carry oxygen, and white blood cells to fight infection, and platelets to help with clotting.
So they're like the ultimate multitaskers.
Pretty much.
Wow. So how does REGENECYTE actually use that power to treat these conditions?
Okay, so when they put these hematopoietic stem cells into the patient, they basically move to the bone marrow,
Okay.
which is like the blood cell factory of your body.
Okay.
And once they're there, they start to multiply and differentiate, which means they're replenishing the patient's blood and immune system with healthy working cells.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So they're repopulating the body with a new batch of these really important hematopoietic stem cells.
Yeah, so they're giving the system a chance to rebuild itself and actually function the way it should.
And these cells, they just know where to go
Yeah.
on their own.
It's pretty remarkable. They seem to have like a homing mechanism. So they instinctively know where to go and what to do when they get in the body. They're like these tiny little machines that are programmed to repair and rejuvenate.
Wow, that's incredible. So it's like your body has its own internal repair crew
Yeah.
that's just waiting for the right tools to get to work.
Uh-huh.
And REGENECYTE is providing those tools by giving them those crucial hematopoietic stem cells.
Exactly. It's this fascinating interplay between science and the healing power of the human body.
It really is. This is all so incredibly promising, and I can only imagine how much of an impact this is going to have on the lives of people who are suffering from these conditions. But like any groundbreaking advancement, I'm sure there are some ethical considerations that we have to think about.
Oh, absolutely. We have to have these conversations.
Yeah.
As this technology keeps developing, it's super important to think about distributing these therapies fairly,
Right.
making sure that everyone who needs them can get them.
Everyone.
Yeah, no matter what their background is or their socioeconomic status.
Right. We need to make sure that these advancements are helping all of humanity, not just a select few.
Exactly.
And it's not just about access. We also have to be mindful of potential long-term effects and any unforeseen consequences that could come from changing these fundamental biological processes.
Absolutely. Ongoing research and careful monitoring are really important to make sure that the people getting these therapies are safe and healthy.
Right.
Transparency and open communication are key as we move into this exciting new frontier in medicine.
We've covered a lot today,
We have.
from the basics of cord blood stem cells to the groundbreaking work that's being done by StemCyte.
Yeah.
It's obvious that REGENECYTE is a major step forward for the field of regenerative medicine, and it has the potential to completely transform how we treat a wide range of conditions.
Yeah. It really does.
It's pretty amazing.
It is, yeah. It's a brave new world of medicine, that's for sure.
It really is.
And it's not just about REGENECYTE or even StemCyte. What we're seeing is a real change, a move towards using the body's own power to heal.
That's what's so fascinating to me about regenerative medicine. It's not just about masking symptoms
Right.
or managing a disease. It's about getting to the root cause.
Yeah, exactly.
And giving the body what it needs to fix itself.
And that is a huge shift in how we think about healthcare.
Yeah.
Instead of fighting disease, we're working with the body.
Right.
We're partners with its natural healing processes.
And it seems like we're just getting started.
Yeah.
What other areas besides, blood disorders and the conditions we've talked about already, do you see as being good candidates for this kind of innovation?
Oh, man, the possibilities are endless. We could be talking about everything from chronic diseases like diabetes and heart disease to autoimmune disorders and even neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
That's a lot.
It is.
It's almost overwhelming to think about how much of an impact this could have.
It really is.
But let's focus on one area that StemCyte's looking into now.
Yeah.
Aging-related diseases.
Yeah.
So what's the thinking there? Can we actually reverse aging using stem cells?
It's a bold idea, but the research is starting to show some really promising results.
Okay.
So as we get older, our cells naturally start to break down.
Right.
And that leads to all sorts of age-related conditions.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is that if we introduce young, healthy stem cells,
Yeah.
we might be able to slow down or even reverse that process.
So it's not about living forever. It's about living healthier for longer.
Exactly. Imagine a world where we could not just live longer, but also live healthier lives.
But now without all those age-related diseases and conditions.
Exactly. More years where we feel good and can do the things that we want to do.
That's a future I think a lot of people would get behind.
I think so, too.
But let's go back to REGENECYTE for a minute.
Okay.
We've talked about how great it could be.
Yeah.
But are there any risks or downsides that we should be aware of?
Of course, with any medical procedure, there are always potential risks. With REGENECYTE, which is an allogeneic stem cell transplant, one of the main concerns is something called graft versus host disease.
Okay.
And this happens when the donor cells, in this case the cord blood stem cells, see the recipient's body as foreign and they attack it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how common is that, and is there anything that could be done to reduce the risk?
It is definitely something to be aware of, but the good news is that new matching techniques and immunosuppressive medications have really helped to lower how often it happens and how severe it is.
Okay.
StemCyte's really careful about matching donors and recipients to minimize the risk.
Okay.
And patients are closely monitored for any signs of problems.
So it's about weighing the benefits against the risks.
Exactly. It's important for patients to understand both the good and the bad so they can make informed decisions about their health care.
And that kind of leads into another important point.
Okay.
The accessibility of these therapies.
Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit earlier, but let's go a little deeper.
Yeah.
If these treatments become more common, how can we make sure that everyone who needs them can get them?
That's a great question, and it's not just about REGENECYTE.
Right.
As we move towards personalized medicine and these advanced therapies, we really need to talk about making healthcare fair and accessible.
Right.
We need to figure out ways to make these treatments available to everyone who needs them, not just people who can afford them.
Right. It's a big challenge, but I think it's one that we have to address if we really want to improve people's health and well-being.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about making sure everyone has the chance to benefit from these amazing advancements in medicine.
And it's not just about being able to pay for it.
Right.
It's also about education and awareness.
Yeah. A lot of people still don't know about regenerative medicine.
Yeah, so how do we fix that?
Yeah.
How do we help people make informed decisions about their health care?
I think conversations like this are a good start. It's about raising awareness, explaining things in a way that people can understand, and getting the public involved in a dialogue about the future of medicine.
The more we talk about these things, the more people will know about them, and the more they'll advocate for greater access and more research funding.
Exactly. We need to create a movement and make sure that these innovations can reach their full potential.
Well said.
Thank you.
We've covered a lot in this discussion, from the specifics of REGENECYTE to the broader implications of regenerative medicine and all the ethical stuff that comes with it. But I want to ask you something a little more personal.
Okay.
What made you interested in this field in the first place?
Hmm.
What keeps you going?
You know, I think what initially drew me in and what still fascinates me is the incredible power of the human body to heal and regenerate.
Yeah.
We take our bodies for granted, but they have this amazing ability to repair and restore themselves.
Even after serious injuries or illnesses.
Exactly. It's like we have these hidden superpowers.
It is kind of like that.
And that's what I find so exciting about regenerative medicine.
Yeah.
We're not just coming up with new drugs or treatments, we're tapping into that natural healing potential and finding ways to make it even stronger.
And that's what makes StemCyte's work so interesting. They're not just developing one therapy. They're really pushing the limits of what's possible.
They are.
Exploring everything that cord blood stem cells can do.
And they're paving the way for a future where these therapies could become the standard of care for so many different conditions.
Yeah, giving hope and healing to so many people around the world.
It's pretty amazing.
It is. It's a vision worth fighting for, and I'm excited to see what happens next in this field. But before we wrap up, let's go back to StemCyte's massive cord blood inventory for a second.
Okay.
We've talked about how it helps with matching and research. But I'm curious, what are some of the challenges of managing and taking care of such a huge collection of biological material?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's something that most people don't even think about. Maintaining a cord blood bank on that scale is really complex, and it takes a lot of resources.
Yeah.
You have to be extremely careful. You need strict quality control measures, and you need really sophisticated storage facilities to make sure those precious cells stay viable for a long time.
So it's not just about collecting them and putting them in a freezer.
Yeah.
You have to keep them healthy and potent for potentially decades.
Yeah, exactly.
What are some of the specific challenges involved in that?
Well, first of all, cord blood units are super fragile.
Okay.
You have to process them and freeze them really quickly after they're collected to make sure the cells don't get damaged. That takes special equipment and highly trained people to make sure each unit is handled correctly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then there's the storage.
Right.
These units have to be frozen at extremely low temperatures
Okay.
and stored in liquid nitrogen tanks,
Wow.
which need to be constantly monitored and maintained to keep them at the right temperature.
That's a lot to keep track of.
It is. And then there's all the data management.
Oh, right.
Each cord blood unit comes with a ton of information about the donor, their medical history, and the genetics of the cells.
Okay.
And all that data needs to be carefully organized and managed so that researchers and doctors can easily find and use the units that they need.
So it's not just a physical library of cells. It's like a huge database.
Exactly. And you need advanced software systems, strong cybersecurity to protect all that sensitive patient information, and a whole team of data scientists and analysts to make sure the information is accurate and reliable.
A massive operation.
It is,
Yeah.
but it's absolutely essential. Without all of that, the potential of cord blood stem cells would just be sitting there.
It wouldn't be realized.
Right.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, it's really amazing to see the dedication and ingenuity of everyone working behind the scenes to make all of this possible.
I agree. It's a team effort.
It's a good reminder that big scientific discoveries don't just happen overnight.
Yeah.
They're built on collaboration, infrastructure, and careful attention to detail.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, on that note of optimism and excitement,
Yeah.
I think it's time to move on to our final segment.
Okay.
We've talked about the science, the potential, and the challenges.
We have.
But now I want to bring it back to you, the listener.
All right.
What does all of this mean for you, and how might these advancements affect your life and the lives of the people you care about?
Yeah.
We'll be right back after a short break to dive into those questions and wrap up our deep dive into the world of cord blood stem cell therapies. Okay, so we're back, ready to wrap up our deep dive into the world of cord blood stem cell therapies.
Sounds good.
We've covered a lot, but now I want to kind of bring it all home. If you're listening to this, you're probably already pretty interested in these treatments.
Yeah.
So what does it all actually mean for you and your family?
I think that's where the real impact is. All this research, all this science, it comes down to how it can help people.
Exactly. And I think one of the most exciting things is that REGENECYTE and other cord blood therapies aren't just some futuristic fantasy anymore. They're real. They're happening right now.
This is actually happening. We're seeing FDA approvals, ongoing clinical trials, and more patients are benefiting from these treatments every day.
Yeah, it's really incredible. But it can also be overwhelming.
Yeah.
Right? There's so much information out there, and it's constantly changing. So what's the main takeaway here? What should people be thinking about?
I think the most important thing is to realize that this field has huge potential.
Yeah.
We're talking about treatments that could completely change how we approach all kinds of diseases.
Right.
And it's not about just treating the symptoms.
Right.
It's about getting to the root of the problem and helping the body actually heal.
So it's about hope. It's about the chance for a healthier future, not just for us, but for future generations too.
Exactly. And it's about taking control of our own health.
Yeah.
You know, being informed patients, asking questions, doing our research, and advocating for better access to these treatments.
And that brings us to something important that we need to talk about.
Mhm.
We've discussed all the potential benefits, but of course there are also concerns and questions about these treatments.
Sure.
For example, some people might not be comfortable with the idea of using cells from someone else.
Yeah.
Is that a valid concern?
It's completely understandable that people would have questions about allogeneic therapies, but these procedures have actually been around for a long time.
Okay.
And the science of matching donors and recipients has come a long way.
So the risks are still there, but they can be managed.
Exactly, with proper screening and monitoring. And in a lot of cases, the potential benefits are much greater than the risks.
Right.
But like with any medical decision, you should talk to your doctor,
Right.
weigh the pros and cons, and make an informed choice.
That's really the message we want to leave everyone with today.
Yeah.
Be curious, be informed, and don't be afraid to ask questions. This is your health, your future,
Yeah.
and you deserve to be able to make the best decisions for yourself and your loved ones.
I agree. We're all learning and exploring together, and the more we understand about regenerative medicine, the better prepared we'll be for all the exciting possibilities that are coming.
We've covered so much today.
We have.
From the science behind cord blood stem cells to the amazing work that companies like StemCyte are doing, we've talked about the potential benefits, the challenges, and all the ethical questions that come with this rapidly changing field.
And hopefully our listeners now have a better understanding of what regenerative medicine could mean for the future of healthcare.
As always, we encourage you to keep learning about this, keep asking questions, and be part of the conversation about how we can use science to create a healthier and more hopeful future for everyone.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for joining us.